Okay, I think we're back. I got flagged for copyright. So, I mean, I tried to, like, look up what the rules are for reaction. Because I know that there are certain rules for reaction. Like, you can't just put on another video and sit there and watch it. Even though that's exactly what some people who do reactions do. But I got flagged for copyright. So, I'm going to continue to try to stream the rest of this because we've only got about an hour left. So I believe that I'm not doing anything wrong and I'm adding commentary and trying to follow the rules. So hopefully stream the rest of this. Yeah, it looks like the stream is working. So, I don't know. Let's just give it a try. Oh, it says maybe I'm not. No, I'm live. It says I'm live at least. Yep. Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll just do our best to... Yeah, I put the RuneScape music on in the background, maybe just trying to avoid copyright, but I don't know what I did. I mean... I wonder if it's a live streaming thing. I wonder if maybe this is something that I've got to do not live streaming and then just upload it as content. But I'm going to keep trying because this is bullshit. I should be able to do something like this.
Of European descent. That is true. The people that we call Native Americans now are not Native Americans. And the reason they're not Native Americans is because they did not form a country called America. They are not native. America is a country. It's not just a place. It's not just a plot of land.
Right.
It is a country. And before America was formed as a nation, this place was not America, because America didn't exist. America existed when it was formed. And so if someone can trace their lineage back to the Comanche on the Great Plains, well, that doesn't make you you weren't native to America. You're native to Comancheria. You're native to this. You're not native to the country of America. The people who are native to the nation of America, the people who formed this nation, were by and large almost exclusively.
Yeah, dude, but you're like mincing words. Like you're getting into a semantic argument rather than like a content argument. Like obviously they mean that the land that now we preoccupy as America was filled with a different people and a different culture, and we uprooted that culture for our own. Like that's. I don't know why he's choosing to get into a semantic like, it wasn't America until we came and made it America. But the whole idea is there was already people on the land. I don't know if anybody making that argument. That's what, by the way, that is why Native American is not a good term. Because they didn't call themselves Americans. They are not really Native Americans.
European descent. They are the natives of this country. They're the ones who formed this country. That doesn't mean that other people aren't allowed to live here. It just means that they're the natives. And again, anywhere else in the world, there's nothing controversial about pointing that out. And we're the only place where we're not allowed to say that. But I've been on this. I've been preaching this for a while now. I think we need, and not just as a gimmick. Like I really believe we should reclaim the title of Native American, and not to denigrate the people that we call natives.
Why?
Who I think that they're. It's really interesting to read about their cultures and their history.
Oh, they're amazing people, but not native to here.
They're not native to America. And they also, by the way, they're also not native in the strictest sense to this hemisphere.
That is a fucking waste of time. If anybody else is in here, and don't do that. Don't try to reclaim Native American because we are the white ancestors or we are the white descendants of our ancestors who formed the country. Don't do that. Like, I don't see a path in which that makes things better. That is a path that makes things worse. That's like the best way I can put it. I can't really intellectualize why that's a bad idea, but the best answer would be because the end result of that thinking is bad.
Sphere. Like, they didn't sprout out of the ground. They came here at some point in the past.
From Asia.
From Asia. They fought brutally with each other over the land. All of the so-called natives that were here and had claimed land when Europeans first started showing up in the late 1400s, early 1500s, all of those people were on that land because they brutally killed who'd been on it before.
Right.
And they raped their women and took their children as slaves.
One wave of conquest supplanted the next.
Exactly.
Right.
And the law of conquest is what determined.
No, it's of course it's factually true, and by the way, it's been suppressed for many decades by anthropologists and archaeologists, by the official policy of the U.S. government. But cracking the human genome made it impossible to deny the origin of the American Indians, which was Asia.
Yeah,
which is fine. I mean, I really like the Native Americans.
I do too.
Personally, yeah, I'm not against them at all. I feel so bad for them. But you're absolutely 100% right. I just find it so interesting, the coordinated effort to exterminate white people, which is in full flower now. It's 1945 is when it started, but it was every part of our society. I mean, I remember at Fox News, in the most gentle way, trying to say, maybe all lives do matter, or we shouldn't attack whites because they're white. Man, it was like the worst argument I ever got in with a senior executive at the network. Like, that's racist. No, it's actually an argument against racism. It's like everybody on all sides was so brainwashed and just accepting this. And then, of course, it happened. And so I wonder, does it ever let up? It didn't let up in Zimbabwe or South Africa. You, take the power, kill a bunch of whites, suppress them.
Sure.
And then, 30 years later, you're still blaming them for everything? Will that happen here when this becomes majority non-white?
All indications are that it will continue. I mean,
so how do you respond to it? What's the right way to respond? You don't want some kind of race war. I don't want to wake up every day thinking about my whiteness. I'm not.
I mean, I think once you start viewing things through the prism of race, then how do you not get a race war? That's why I have such a problem whenever you start having these conversations, because I don't believe that the white race is at risk of being eliminated, right? And I think just talking about it in racial terms like that makes it more likely to happen. So I don't see the benefit of making it in racial terms.
Let's just be honest. I don't like thinking in those terms. Sorry, call me a boomer, which I'm not. But I just don't want to. I want to see people as people. But how do you respond to that? Because you can't allow that. You can't allow people to attack your kids because of their skin color. What the fuck?
Right, exactly. I think you respond to it, and I think there has been some progress actually in this regard. Probably a significant amount.
You've been a big part of that, by the way, on the right. So thank you.
Well, I mean, I think this is one of the things. Like I said before, there are some victories the conservatives have had.
Yeah.
I know some of the more doomer-minded conservatives say, "What do we conserve? We haven't conserved anything." Well, I'm not saying I'm not saying we've been batting 1,000, but I think we have succeeded in certain
I think they're referring. Well, maybe this is what I think, but I do think they're mostly referring to conservative institutions.
Yeah, which I would
the
agree.
Republican Congress or some Republican think tank, those clearly haven't achieved a lot.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But so one success that I think that you're starting to see recently is that the left used to get a lot of mileage out of obviously not engaging with arguments, but just labeling them. They would just label the argument,
right.
And so they would say their way of engaging with the argument is say, well, the argument's not wrong or right. I don't care about that. The argument is an ist or ism. The argument is racist. The argument is whatever, bigoted.
This is correct.
Whatever, anti-Semitic.
This is an accurate
they used to get a lot of mileage out of that. And I think what's happening now is that people are saying, well, I don't care about the labels. You can say whatever label you want.
Exactly.
It just doesn't mean
anything to me. No, he's right. He's right, and that is personified in the latest Nick Fuentes thing, where Pierce Morgan just asks him straight up, like, "What do you think Hitler is cool?" And Nick, instead of responding to the question, responded to a question 2 or 3 questions out by just saying, like, yeah, like, fuck it. If this is what we're gonna do, and you're just gonna pull up clips of me and then call me a racist, then I'm just gonna embrace it. That's absolutely and that's super normal amongst young people. Especially, it's like a way of trolling too. Like, if you're not going to, in good faith, engage with me, I am not going to engage in good faith with you.
And the reason it doesn't mean anything to me is it's not my fault, it's your fault. When you decided that everything fits under that label, the label doesn't mean anything anymore.
Exactly.
And I think that's made people more fearless. There was a time. I mean, look, you go back to 2000, not 2000. Well, certainly 2000, but even going back to 2020, in the throes of the Floyd hysteria, and for a lot of people, being called racist it's like the worst thing in the world. They were terrified of it.
Oh yeah.
Being called racist was for a lot of people, that was worse than being called like a child molester.
Well, yeah, it's because nobody wants to be racist. Most people don't want to be racist. And so if you're called a racist, most people's gut reaction is to say no. That's not the case.
I mean, they would rather be called anything but racist. And there's all this fear. And I think the race hustlers got a lot of mileage out of that fear. I think that fear is starting to dissipate.
And yet, I still haven't seen many people, especially people who spend a lot of time claiming bias against them, coming out and making unequivocal statements against anti-white hate. Like, that's the one category. I haven't seen a lot of people say that. Like, no, hating whites is every bit as hating blacks or hating Jews or hating Asians or whatever. Hating a group is immoral. I have seen very few people say that. And Barry Weiss is not big on that. Why? Like, why can't we just say that? It's all the same. It's all species of the same evil. Like, that's my opinion. I think that's the Christian view. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but it's certainly my opinion, and it's a coherent argument, but I never see anybody say that.
Well, I think it's a lot of that is programming that's been going on for a long time. To the way a lot of people are programmed is that to speak specifically in defense of white people as a group.
I'm sorry, guys. Looks like we got like a slowing down of the stream, so I'm just gonna pause this for a second and see if it gets any better. Apologies. Yeah, I definitely just at some point need to move my modem to a place where it gets better internet. We were at like about 50 people who had come and gone before the stream got shut down, and now it looks like there's one person in here. I appreciate you for stopping by. Hopefully this is enjoyable to you. I'm just like winging this and having fun, like trying to figure out if this is something that I could do more seriously. Right now I'm just doing it as a hobby. I would already watch stuff like this because I'm a political junkie. So I figure maybe I could give my opinion and kind of put that out there. I don't really think there's a lot of like I'm a classic liberal. I'm not progressive, but I'm certainly not part of Con Inc. I feel like maybe there's not a ton of people with my viewpoint around that are peddling progressive politics. So maybe this will be enjoyable for some people. I don't know. But looks like connections. Oh. You know, and this is totally just like conspiracy-minded behavior, but like I wonder how much of this is DDoS for like, you know, because we live in a world where there's more censorship than there ever has been, and I wonder if this is in effect a way to silence me, because once the AI or algorithm or whatever it is detects what I'm saying and has that video up and all that, then it immediately gets flagged and targeted for DDoS. That's totally conspiracy theory minded. I had no proof of that, like just throwing it out there. But I mean, we had 2 hours of uninterrupted. Maybe I should go back and watch the video. At what point, what was being said in the minutes that preceded the shutting off that would warrant being shut off like that. All right, it looks like we're back. Back to something more consistent. Oh, I apologize. I definitely need to make my my streaming setup better, but
to say anything positive about white people as a group is just automatically racist. And I think that this, and it's obviously
bonkers.
Right. It's absurd, but it's ingrained deeply. I mean, this goes back to, I can remember this kind of conditioning in public school in the 90s. I went to public school. I can, we talk about wokeness like it just started in 2015. It didn't. And maybe it was worse in 2015 than it was in 1993. I can remember it in 1993. And I can remember being in school, and the only time that, if we ever talked about, like, our ancestors or the people who founded this country or anything like that, it was either in an expressly negative way, let's talk about all the terrible things they did, or if we are going to acknowledge anything good they did, we have to couch it by first saying, well, here's a lot of bad things they did. They also did this, but also the bad. And so that's been going on for such a long time.
But these were, in retrospect, these were the first moves. These were the shock troops of a total takeover and change in the country. Like, this was preparation for what we got under Biden, where it's just like,
yes,
let's just totally transform the demographics of the country in 4 years, and then no one will feel free to say anything about it because racism.
Right.
I mean, it feels that way to me. I don't know if it was a strategy or intentional, but it was certainly...
It feels that way, but, like, until you have, like, quid pro quo, like, them coming out and saying that out loud, like, those exact words, then it's always going to be a somewhat level of speculation. And unless you are absolutely sure and have something like a quid pro quo, them just saying the quiet part out loud, it's so hard to prove something like that. As a conspiracy, it totally makes sense.
Consciously, but, like, it wasn't an accident, and it happened in every white majority country, and that's why there won't be any white majority countries really soon. And so, like, what was that? I kind of wish I wasn't white in saying this, because it's not it's first of all, it's curiosity. Like, what the hell? You almost never see anything happen globally that's that similar in countries that aren't that similar. Like, the United States is not that similar to the UK or Canada or New Zealand, Australia, but exactly the same thing happened in all of those places.
Much worse in a lot of those places.
Australia, yeah. Oh, if you visit those places, it'll just break your heart, because the people are broken. But
in Canada, they are.
Well, Canada is not even a country.
Right, it's not even a country, and they are overwhelmed with guilt. They are so.
Well, they're murdering. The government is murdering tens of thousands of its citizens every year. They're almost all white, and now they're going to be doing it to kids.
What?
And by the way, under the
what is he
MAIDS
talking
program,
about? See, when you say something like that, I mean, here's the thing. Tucker's not like a politician, right? The power he holds is culturally, not politically. I think he does hold some social influence, which can translate to soft power, but he has no real power outside of being a podcaster. So I guess in that way, he doesn't need, like, explicit evidence. If you say something like that, and I guess they're having a conversation with each other, right? So it's not, they're not required to. But when I hear somebody say something like that, who does this for a living, it's almost like it'd be nice if you could preamble that with some kind of proof. Or what is the thought process that leads to that? Because I've never heard of that.
They're harvesting the organs from the Canadians they kill. So this is like the darkest thing.
See, and I don't know. I've heard of that with the with our if you sign your donor thing, then that's what it's supposed to be for. Like I don't know enough about that topic to really have an opinion, but my surface level opinion is, bro, it's just something that they do for science, right? Why do you care? That might be completely ignorant and not in my place to say, but I've never heard of that actually being like a problem. Like you die in a car accident and you can still give your kidney to somebody who will use it for 30 years, right? Is it more complicated than that?
That's like, I would feel much freer and safer living in China than Canada. I can't believe I'm saying that. I actually love Canada. But that's happening, and no one's saying a word about it.
Yeah, that in particular is one of those things that it's so dark and so depraved that when you talk about it, I think a lot of people, especially in America, they think you're making it up or you're exaggerating.
I almost don't talk about it very often because I don't think anyone believes it, but I live right near Canada, and I know, and I'm like the only American who really sincerely loves Canada because it's just so beautiful. Not the only, but not many people care about Canada. I do. So I know a lot of Canadians.
And they shouldn't. If you're one of those Americans that loves Canada and gets offended when somebody says Canada is America's 51st state, then you need to reevaluate your beliefs. Making fun of Canada is fun. Making fun of the French is fun. Okay? Do not take that away from us. Canada deserves every bit of shit thrown at them, just like we do, by the way. Like, I am not those kinds of people that are like, you cannot talk shit on America. All you can do is talk shit on America 100%. So don't give me the bullshit about caring about Canadians or the French or anybody really other than Americans.
That's absolutely, you'll look it up on the inner tubes. It's there.
It's becoming one of the leading causes of death.
It is one of the leading causes of death.
Is assisted suicide. I mean, just
the government killing you, and not because you have ALS, but because you can't pay your rent, and then extending it to children, and then harvesting the organs and the blood. I mean, I feel like they're a way bigger threat to the United States than Venezuela. I would be open to an argument in favor of invading and occupying Canada on human rights grounds. I'm not joking even a tiny bit. I think it's one of the darkest countries in the world. And it's such a great country with such great people. I don't know how we can allow this to happen without at least saying something about it. I'm not actually arguing for military action, but like, maybe threatening it. They're way worse than Maduro.
So here's my question then to that. Why all of a sudden you're looking at it completely different than Afghanistan? Because Tucker's whole thing is that he was wrong about the war in Iraq, right? And that all of the stuff that he supported 20 years ago, he now thinks is the wrong thing to do. So why now is he not seeing that here? I would bet that if he was asked that his answer would be is the situation is different now than it was then, and we know more now than we knew then. That's what I bet he would say. But that's very interesting.
Well, way worse.
How is that not a neocon position while his whole brand right now is deconstructing neoconservative foreign policy?
Bro, way worse. So like, but I'm sure I'll be scolded for how can you say that? Because it's true.
Yeah, well, the MAID program alone is one of the most evil things happening in the world, period.
Murdering your citizens and harvesting their organs on a greater scale than China does? Really? And it's right there?
I think one of the things that's happening, why are people ignoring this in America? Well, one thing, it's people, it's like not your country, so you think it doesn't affect you. I think it does affect us because also like when you look at Canada and Europe and these guys, we're on the same kind of crazy train. They're just a few train cars up. And so
people don't give a fuck about foreign policy when they can't pay for groceries. Most people don't. Some people do when they're very socially conscious, let's say. But if you can't pay your bills and you don't know if the landlord is going to kick you out next next month or raise the rent, right? Or if your cost of living is not going to be adjusted, even though everything gets more expensive every year, then you really actually don't care about foreign policy. That's the truth. You only care about it if it's part of your business and or industry in some way, or you have like a personal attachment to that part of the world.
Oh, and so that's why you got to pay attention to where they are, because we're going to be there. So that's one thing.
Yes, thank you.
But I think that also for some conservatives in this country, there's some embarrassment about this, because I think there are plenty of conservatives who've been at least indifferent to the issue of euthanasia, and have even I've had many arguments with so-called conservatives
Actually?
over the years. Not as much now, because you see what's happening with MAID, but over the years with saying that, well, you know, because they get hung up on this, well, it's a personal choice. And they just think as conservatives, you cannot oppose a personal choice. You can't do it. And it's kind of the libertarian instinct gone way haywire in my mind. And so but now you can see, now those of us who have always been against
So
euthanasia,
a desperate person has free will? Is that what they're saying?
and that's the problem.
These are children. They don't know what they're talking about.
And also, so
Ah.
those of us who are opposed to it, we have been saying for years, like, this is where it's going to go. Okay, yeah, right now and the other argument for euthanasia was, well, these are people who are in terrible pain and they're at death's door. They've only got days or at most weeks to live anyway. They're in horrible pain. You have no idea what it's like, and so they should be able to have a way out. And like, from an emotional level, like, I get what you're saying. Totally disagree with it. I get what you're saying. Our argument was a few arguments, but the big one was, okay, that's what we're doing. It's already evil to do that, even with someone who's terminally ill. They're doing that now, though. It will not stop there, because it never stops there. And once you give the state and the medical establishment the authority to kill, they will not stop. It always starts with the most justifiable version of it that they can muster, which is still totally unjustifiable in my view. But they always starts with the most justifiable version, and then next it's like, okay, yeah, but yeah, we should include people who maybe they're not terminally ill, but they're chronically ill and they're in a lot of pain. And okay, now we've included them. Well, what about mental illnesses? Well, what about this person over there? He's homeless. Yeah, he's not terminally ill, but his life has no meaning, and he's terrible. He lives on the street. And then you know, step, and eventually you're killing kids too.
But we've
That's
seen
where
this.
it goes.
We've seen this. And by the way, I'm older than you, and so they were still teaching this in schools.
That was correct. That's a correct assessment. The idea that you're going to be like a gracious or merciful government by allowing their citizens to be killed or euthanized by like medical professionals is one of the downfalls of our society. Okay, it sounds nice, right? It sounds like a very liberal thought of, you know, especially I'm a very philosophically speaking, I'm very much an existentialist. I believe that suffering is like the most guaranteed thing in life, and so it's about learning to live in spite of the suffering. It's not about trying to get rid of the suffering. I forget where I was going with that. Brain fart.
When I was a kid, but the older than you, and so they were still teaching this in schools when I was a kid. And by the way,
No, step.
Oh yeah. It sounds nice to allow assisted suicide because as an existentialist, I believe that, you know, if your life was so bad, at one point I believed that if your life was so bad that you didn't see a way out, but you didn't have like the guts to say to pull a trigger, then you could go to a doctor who would do it and just kind of ease the pain, right? Just kind of like take it all away and do it in a way that was like didn't cost the state a bunch of money, didn't put you in any pain. That all sounds nice from a liberal point of view. What we've seen of it happening is that encourages a culture of allowing that to happen. Because I think, first of all, if you allow that to happen, there are going to be people who profit off of that and will therefore want to push for more people signing up for assisted suicide. which I don't think that the purpose of assisted suicide should be to have as much of it as possible. There should be as little of it as possible in practice. But I think it's that's one of those technologies or concepts that once you allow it through, there's no stopping that. So assisted suicide is one of those laws that it's like, that's the beginning of the downfall of a country. Anything that leads to more death is bad. And that sounds so stupid to say because it's so simple, but
eventually you're killing kids too.
But we've
That's
seen
where
this.
it goes.
We've seen this. And by the way, I'm older than you. And so they were still teaching this in schools when I was a kid. But the Nazi experiment began with euthanasia, famously.
Yep.
And it wasn't just on a small scale. It was like hundreds of thousands of people killed. It began, well, Down syndrome. Like, how could your life be worth living? And then it wound up with Dietrich Bonhoeffer and the Warsaw Ghetto.
That's
like,
true.
This was a very clear, much written about continuum that began with murdering the weakest. And then again...
Yeah, because we convince you that murdering the weakest is good for them. It's so evil, dude. But it's easy to get there. It's easy to get there because it attacks people's empathy, and I think every person has some level of empathy, unless you're like seriously sadistic or socially not trained. Everybody has a good amount of empathy, and so exploiting that is, I mean, it's a tale as old as time.
And, it ended where it famously ended, which was with mass murder. But Hitler was famous for his euthanasia program.
Yep.
He was also famous for, like, rounding people up and moving them to new places, like, is now openly being discussed in Gaza.
Yep.
It's like, the whole thing is so bonkers.
Yeah.
It just tells you that human evil is not specific to any group or time or place. It resides in every person. Every person is capable of this kind of behavior, justifying this kind of behavior, and we should...
The line of good and evil does not run through a nation. It runs through the human heart.
all be on guard against it. But, like, Hitler was very famous for euthanasia. Did you even learn that in school?
No, certainly not.
So funny. Things change.
Dude,
I was in first grade in 1975. And that was...
I mean, luckily, even just Wikipedia for me when I was younger was so... it's just better than only being provided the books that you're given in school. And even other parts of the internet 20 years ago was like, that's a crazy amount of information. I learned a lot of shit they did not teach me in school because you hear it and it's kind of a conspiracy theory, and then you look it up and a lot of the shit ends up being true.
Sure. Of it. You know, he was bad because he killed people on the basis of, like, their DNA. That's not allowed. And he killed the weakest, not allowed. And I guess they stopped teaching that.
And the other thing is when you give the medical establishment, when you accept the idea that death is a treatment, you have opened the darkest door imaginable.
Yes.
And this is what's so frustrating is that what are often decried as slippery slope arguments. People talk about, oh, it's a fallacy, slippery slope. First of all, slippery slope is not a fallacy. It's not a fallacious way of making an argument.
No.
All we're trying to show you is that, okay, here's a door you've opened. Okay, you've made an argument to justify something, and what I'm trying to tell you is that I can take that argument intact and use it to justify this thing over here that we both agree is horrific. And so if I can do that, what that tells me is that, what it should tell you is that either your argument is bad or the thing you're arguing for is bad, or both.
He's right in one way, but that's also that's a very critical way of operating. I think there is a way where you can not have to totally deconstruct that kind of argument in order to engage with it.
And it's either your argument is bad or the thing you're arguing for is bad.
Yeah, I don't think that's always the case. That can be the case, and so I hear him, but I don't think that this is the correct mode of thinking.
Or both. And that's what the slippery slope thing is. And that was the point with euthanasia. Once you allow the medical establishment to use death, murder, as a form of medical treatment, you've completely flipped it on its head, because the whole point of medicine is to heal and treat. And so to avoid death and pain. Like, that's the point of it. And now you've flipped it upside down, and you've said that death is the treatment. And so now you've just destroyed the whole thing. You've destroyed it.
It's never a good thing.
But this happened, I think that almost all obstetricians are required to commit abortion during their training.
Yeah, well, that's right.
So
it happened
then you
before.
wind
Is that true?
This happened, I think that almost all obstetricians are required to commit abortion.
What is that word he says?
But this happened, I think that almost all obstetricians are
obstetricians? I'm just going to spell it really badly and see if it comes up. Okay. An obstetrician is a medical doctor who specializes in pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period, focusing on the health both of the mother and the fetus. Okay, well so that makes sense. So if you're a doctor and you specialize in pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period, then unfortunately, right, then abortion should include that, because there will be times where using an abortion will be medically necessary. So actually, I don't find a problem with that. I see where they're going with it, because of the idea is, if your job is to preserve life, why are you doing something that takes it away? And I think that's just like that's a philosophical argument versus the practical world of being a doctor. Like, if you're a medical doctor who specializes in pregnancy and childbirth, there will be times where people need an abortion and it will be medically necessary. There are times that happens. And so it's not unfeasible to need to learn to do that if that's what you're going to do. But that is under the presupposition that abortion should be legal.
Required to commit abortion during their training.
Yeah, well, that's right.
So then you wind up with an entire medical corps that's evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of evil doctors, not just a few, but a lot.
Evil
yeah, there's evil doctors because they're controlled by drug companies that basically have them push pills on people instead of actually fixing or elongating people's lives.
I guess it's the same thing, but they have to be very indifferent to human life, which is evil.
But did you realize? I certainly didn't realize. It really was the COVID vax and the lack of COVID the intentional lack of COVID, letting people die rather than treating their symptoms, which happened extensively across the United States. That's when I was like, these people
sure did.
Aren't just wrong. They're like the worst people, and the physicians are the worst people in the country. And for all the nurses, sweet nurses, I love nurses, sorry, who like stood up and like, this is wrong. Almost no doctors did. A few, Mary Tally Bowden and people like that, but like not a lot. And I was just like, our doctors are evil, not just mistaken, they're bad.
I know somebody who was recently just prescribed Ritalin, and when they came up to me and told me that, they asked me for like my opinion on it. And so I'm very educated minded. I think that education is the best way for people to make an educated choice. So I asked her, what did the doctor tell you about this drug when he prescribed it to you? And they looked at me and they said they did not say anything about it. It's like, what do you mean? So what happened? You just walked in and got diagnosed with something, and then he prescribed you medication, and then what, sent you on your way? She got a packet of stuff to read, but he did not say anything to her. That's crazy. They didn't try to fix the problem she was diagnosed with. You diagnose her with a problem, and then there's a list of pills that the doctor can prescribe you to stave off those symptoms. It doesn't actually fix your issue. Like, that's crazy. He didn't take 5-10 minutes to explain to them like what they're putting in their body every day now and how it's going to affect them. That's why doctors are evil, in my opinion.
Did you feel that?
I think a lot of them are. I mean, certainly, obviously not all of them, but
not all of them, right?
Yeah, but
like not 5%.
Right, exactly.
We're like 70%.
Well, and how about also there's abortion, euthanasia, COVID. You've gone to, but then also something that I don't think we should just drop and move on from, because speaking of justice, there has not been justice for this, which is that for years we had the entire medical establishment unanimously almost telling us that the best thing to do with a young boy who's a little bit confused about his identity is to castrate him. And they were doing that. They were doing that to thousands of kids. They were
This is not true as far as I'm concerned. I don't believe it's thousands. It could be. There are so few cases of that is making a mountain out of a molehill in a country full of 330 million people. In a country full of 330 million people, every single thing that you can think of has happened to somebody, right? That's. I haven't done a whole bunch of research, but that's right. That's the last thing I heard about that. There's no mass child genital mutilation, as far as I know. I haven't sufficiently looked into it.
chopping the breasts off. They're still doing it in some places. But it was certainly happening at scale for a long time. They're chopping the breasts off of 15-year-old girls. And
that happened at a very, 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 very tiny, statistically insignificantly rate as far as I'm concerned. I could be wrong, but that's the last thing that I remember hearing.
But to your point, it was not just like a few doctors. There's a lot of doctors that were involved in it. A lot more doctors supported it. And a lot of other doctors who maybe didn't like it, but they didn't say a word. They did not speak up against it. This is some of the most insane, barbaric, Frankenstein bullshit that the world has ever seen. Completely unjustifiable. No one can argue in defense of it. It's one of the craziest things that's ever happened in the history of the planet.
It's hard to hear this even because you're right.
Right, and it just went on, and the way that the advocates for this, the way that they argued in favor of it, because obviously they couldn't make any substantive argument for castrating kids, what they would always say is, well, look at all these medical establishments. Every single one of them is in favor of it. And they were right. They all were. All of them.
What's so crazy is that...
That'd be interesting to look up. I've never heard of that. As far as I'm concerned, that there are times where that has been deemed medically necessary. Right? I'm not a doctor. I don't get to decide what is medically necessary. I think that's between the doctor and the patient. And as far as I'm concerned, the last time I heard about it, stuff like castration and mastectomies on kids under the age of 18 is like not very many. Like statistically just not. Even if you say thousands happen a year, in a country full of 330 million people, that's statistically irrelevant almost. I could be completely wrong. Maybe we have an epidemic where millions of kids are getting their breasts cut off. But, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's like statistically overrepresented or overused.
Female genital mutilation, which is, universal in a few countries, I think Somalia is one of them, but was very frowned upon by feminists and also by me as a lover of women. And it was a feature of debate on cable news shows, like most of my life as a cable news debater. FGM, we do a segment on FGM or whatever. Can you believe they're doing this? And nobody would defend it. We look far and wide. Who will defend female genital, a clitorectomy? Who would defend that? And,
those who seek to destroy the world, that's who.
Our bookers tried really hard, but there weren't many. All of a sudden, no one mentioned it again. And that's because they started doing it. And it's just a reminder that you don't have to be Somali or a Nazi or any specific group to participate in evil. Like, this is a human problem. And the second they stop talking about how what other people did is bad, it's probably a tip that they're going to start doing it themselves, right?
And it's also a lesson
Yep.
that's very easy. I mean, look, nobody wants to admit it now, but at the height of the trans madness, and I don't mean to talk about it totally in the past tense like it's over. It's not. But we are past the height of it.
It feels that.
Thank God.
This is incorrect. Again, they must live just in a culturally very different spot than me. But let me tell you what. The trans movement or the trans community, however you want to label that, trans people are not going away. That's not the world that we live in. The world that I live in, trans people are here to stay. They are people just like you and me. It doesn't even matter that they're trans. That has been like a psyop to make people fucking fight against each other. Most normal people should not and do not care if you're trans. Right? And that's the way it should be. To say that the trans thing is going away in any way is a statement that is bereft of a huge part of the country. Like, it just proves that that divide you're talking about does run through you as well.
But at the height of it, no one wants to admit it now, but almost everyone on the left supported it, vocally so. And most people on the right told themselves or insisted that it's not worth saying anything about. It's not that big of a deal.
Totally right. That's exactly
right.
true.
This is a cultural war sideshow. And so what that tells us is that it's actually very easy for people to convince themselves to go along with the worst evils
Yes.
that are even conceivable.
No, that's totally right.
It was less than a year ago that my whole position on what's going on in Israel is that there's no way it could have been a genocide. That there was, that by no definition that we would apply to something that we would call that a genocide. And I held that like less than a year ago, right? People somehow get into believing crazy shit, right? That's why I'm thankful that at least I try to change my mind when presented with just overwhelming evidence. I think that you should give people grace when they're like that. Sometimes some people are so affected by what's happening in their lives that they would believe and say and do things that they would never ever do.
Right.
It's very easy to convince yourself
And
that
partisanship is not a good guide to that. As you just said yourself, a lot of people that are on our side, like, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, it's well, because what you have are, I mean, usually, this is not how it always works out, but you've got the really evil thing being promoted, facilitated by the left, whether it's abortion or euthanasia, whatever else, and then you've got cowardice on the right, refusing to speak up against it until it's very safe to do so. And then everybody does, and that's why it's also been on the trans issue. It's been interesting over the last year and a half to have people coming out of the woodwork, very boldly saying, men shouldn't be in women's sports. Like, yeah. Thanks for that. Like, we could have used that 6 years ago.
Because this was one of those issues. Was you and a few other people just changed it. It wasn't Congress. It was you made your movie. And you wouldn't stop talking about it. And there were a few others, but they
What
were
is a
all
woman?
in commentariat. They were all in the pundit class. It was no U.S. senator who led the charge against this. Some followed in the end, but it came from outside the system, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
So that kind of shows.
I think even if you are a hardcore feminist, progressive, right, leftist, it's worth it to watch that film because I'll just say my point of view, and if you don't like it, you don't have to listen. that a lot of it does not come from a place of hate. It comes from a place of misunderstanding, right? Matt is not the most learned person on that subject, and he's not the kind of person who is going to like become a scholar on it before he makes that kind of film. That film is an artistic representation of his philosophy, right? So I think as an artist, you should be able to watch that and not like when I watched it, it didn't pop out at me like this is going to lead to the death of trans people or women or anything like that. It's just a humorous like spoof of a documentary that is definitely informed by his viewpoint. I think it's worth it.
Among other things, that the commentariat, which is insufferable, even as I say this part of it, does matter. It matters, actually. The opinions you see on all these podcasts, like they, over time, do change things, clearly. So, to circle back to where we began, how is this current conflict, the intra-right conflict, resolved?
I don't know. I if I knew how to do it, I would do it. Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
If I knew how to solve it, if I knew how to bridge the divide and get everyone on the same side again, I would do it. I've tried in my own way.
I know.
I have not been.
I think that from an outsider's point of view, because I don't identify as part of the Republican Party or like conservative movement. The way that the conservatives and the Republicans come back together is they try to reach out to their constituency and actually represent the will of the general population, which if you talk to like kids, and I'm talking about like kids like 13 to 18, most of them don't care if you're trans, right? They don't care if you're gay or part of the LGBT, right? That movement of conservatism which is informed by Christianity, that is not preferable, that is dying, right? There's tons of gay Republicans and gay conservatives and trans conservatives especially. So that the culture issues need to go away, and they need to unify on like a financial or an economic thing that will benefit the majority of people, because the number one thing in a society is if the economics are unstable and people are unsure of the future, then everything else is going to be difficult. Culture issues come after economic issues. So if the Republicans unite under a candidate that can make the economic situation for the average American better, then that will guarantee long-term membership in the party.
Been successful. I have tried.
You're like the last person with a foot in each world. It's interesting.
And I value that. Like this isn't for me. This is what people have to understand. I try not to take it personally, the insults that, I mean, when you're in this world, you get insulted all the time, and you have
do?
You have to have thick skin. There are certain attacks against me that I should not admit this, but I will, that do bother me. Like they do.
Like what? Okay, you opened it. You opened the door. So
well, charges of when people say things that just aren't true,
mm-hmm.
like, and it happens all the time, and it's the one thing I should be the most used to.
It's like, that's the internet, dude. That's just the internet. Like, especially once you get to any kind of like any people are paying attention to you, that's all you're gonna get. Like, that's just the internet.
I guess
yeah.
I am, but it just pisses me off.
Really?
Like, it does, because
I'm the opposite. It's only the true attacks that upset me.
I don't know. Yeah, it shouldn't. But when people I see someone, make a claim, especially if it's someone, it doesn't have to be, but especially if it's someone who I kind of know, and even if it's not, but saying something that's just like, it's not true. You're ascribing motives to me that are, it's just the exact opposite.
It's
of
bad
what is
faith.
Actually true. And you're not even.
It's bad faith, and it's so fucking. It's the most annoying part of talking to somebody you disagree with is if you're gonna argue with somebody, then at least try to do it in a way where you represent their viewpoint in an honest way, and the purpose of it is to be enlightened and to maybe enlighten them, and to strengthen your position, right? That's like a good faith argument. That's like when you go into a conversation and you know you disagree with the person, but you know that they have your best intentions at heart, and you're both going towards a common goal. But once you start engaging in bad faith, where you're like, I already think you're a Nazi and everything you say is bullshit, so I'm just going to use things you say in the conversation in order to make you seem as bad as you are. It's just not conducive.
Asking me, you're not reaching out, you're not giving me a chance to speak for myself.
Who did that to you?
And I here's the thing. I talked about loyalty before.
Yeah.
I'm so devoted to it that I have people I consider friends who have been attacking me publicly, and I still don't want to attack them
Welcome
back.
to my world.
I still don't want to
Do
name
you feel like there's a connection between the degree to which you've helped someone and the vehemence of the attack? I've noticed that in my life. I'm not whining, and I agree with you.
Yes.
Hate being attacked. I'm being threatened. Someone shot at my house. Like, I'm never going to say that. Okay. Though it's true. But I have noticed that a lot of people I've helped are like on the front lines of attacking me or calling me names they know aren't true. Nazi. And I feel like there's a connection. It's not random. It's like if you've helped someone, maybe they resent you for it.
I don't
down?
know. Yeah, there might be some of that. I mean, there's a lot of things. First of all, everybody's very emotional. Like, and I try to keep that in mind too. People, I try not to do the thing that pisses me off so much people do to me, which is ascribing motives and say, well, you're really doing this because of this. And I think sometimes people do. A lot of people do have ulterior motives, clearly. And people are scheming and they're playing games. And also, by the way, we live in a space like this is a business, and people do this for a living. Mm-hmm. And so there's also just competitiveness.
No, it's right.
And that happens.
I guess.
But then at the same time, people also get just pissed off and they get emotional.
Well, that's definitely true.
And that's happening on all. So I recognize that. Like,
why is he acting like he's never been on the internet before? And he's like not constantly like part of the sphere of the internet. Like, this is what it is. It's the worst part. That's like one of the cons of using the internet is you get like the worst part of people. Right? The second you get any kind of notoriety or anything, or people give a shit about you at all, they immediately come after you. Why is he acting like this? He does not know this.
So that's why some of the people that go after me publicly, even people I consider friends, and I'm like, you have my phone number, you can call me, and you're not. And I try to maybe it's for my own sanity. I try to be as charitable as possible and think like, well, they're wrong, but they're really angry. And they've got this whole story about me that's not correct, but that's what's happening. They're just pissed off, and I've been pissed off before and said things I regret. So I think a lot of that's happened. To go back to the question of what to do about it, well, I guess I don't know why I'm going back to it because I don't have the answer. But I think
he lost his train of thought there.
The only thing that can be done is for all of us, if you're on the right.
Matt's that kind of guy, like, you know that for the, like, most of his life, he could not grow the beard in the way that he wanted to, and he tried to act, like, way over masculine and was, like, always that bro that tried to, like, fuck with you and, like be overly, like, masculine, but he couldn't live up to it because he just didn't look like it, or there was just something always off. And now, finally, within the last 7 years, he's been able to, like, realize that his personality is, like, being obnoxious and having the face. Because now he's got a full beard, glass, like, you know what I'm saying?
To go back to some of the basics that we talked about at the beginning of the conversation. Like, what is it that we want?
Exactly.
What is it that we actually want?
What's the real catechism here? What does it mean to be on the right?
Exactly. What are we? It's the classic question about conservatives. What are you trying to conserve? It's a good question. You should be able to answer that. What are you trying to conserve? And everybody needs to ask themselves that and come up with an answer. Write your list. Write it out if you have to. Whatever. Come up with your list.
I'm going to do this. This is my calling right here.
And everyone should have their list. And then we should compare notes. And if our list match up, like we want the same things, we're trying to conserve and preserve the same things, then the only way forward is with that, is for us to realize that, like, let's reorient towards that. Make that the goal. And remember that even when we disagree, we're going to have disagreements, but we're only disagreeing about how to do this thing that we both want done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the way forward. Now, on the other hand, maybe you start looking at your list and you realize that I actually don't even want the same things as these.
I think he's approaching this in like people don't think this way. Younger people don't think this way. Again, make a party that is for the regular people, make the economic situation for average Americans better, and then after those two things are done, right, after the economic situation is fixed, or at least improved, you can move on to culture issues. But the culture issues are always going to be something where, like, you make the culture issues in the culture. Opposite of politics, right? Be an artist. Politicians used to also be artists because they understood that politics and the culture should be maybe separate but reflective. Once they're the same thing, you've got a problem.
As these people. Okay, well then we're not on the same side. And that's very clarifying too.
You don't need to like come up with like a list of values to be conserved. Most people can't read. Most people can't write. If you give them an iPad, they'll be able to type it in notes or speech to text it. Like, that's where we're at. So it's less of trying to think of what is going to conserve the conservative movement and just make a movement that, or a party that's for the people. It's not that complicated. And what people want is just economic security right now. It's really not that complicated.
I think that there are people.
Do you feel that's happening in my mind? I'm like, we don't have anything in common, actually. I thought we did, but we don't. Is that happening to you?
There's certainly some of that. I think that there are definitely people who just don't want the same things at all. They don't have the same fundamental goals. I think that's certainly happening, and that's part of the clarifying. That's part of the.
Is that bad or good?
Well, clarity is good.
Hey!
I think we need.
Dragon nail drop. That's awesome. I almost had no idea you could get it. What was it? Yeah, 3,273, and that's just on RuneLight. That's not including all of the mobile stuff and before this was added to the loot tracker. Dang. That's cool. Another one for the collection log.
Need clarity. But for me, like I said, the only person, and I believe this wholly, I try to live by it, the only person who can speak to your intentions is you. The only person who can tell anyone what's in your mind is you. And so if someone says to me...
That's why I try to interview people.
Right. So, exactly.
You're allowed to speak for yourself.
And so I've given my list of what it is that I want to conserve and preserve.
Can you, in an abbreviated form, just run through it really quick one more time? Because I think I agreed with it.
Abbreviated is always in trouble for me.
Well, no, you don't have to abbreviate it. But you just say it again. Like, what are the things you're saying? There's left, right. I don't even know what that means anymore. But like, people who share your values believe what?
They believe in objective truth.
Yeah.
Okay. They believe in truth. Number one, that there is a truth.
Okay, I'm gonna write this down.
And
hold on now. Okay, objective truth.
Yeah, objective truth.
Whether or not there, can I just add one caveat? I'm not always convinced I know what the objective truth is. I've certainly been wrong.
You certainly don't know
it exists.
Right, exactly, and that's exactly the point. We can disagree about what the truth is. We're going to have those disagreements.
Right.
But we have to be able to agree that there is a truth.
Right.
To begin with.
Exactly.
And when you're talking to someone who's a moral relativist, they're on the left, you can't even agree on that. So there's no conversation to be had.
I think that if you live your life as if the real objective truth exists, you live a better life. I don't think that there's any way that you can prove objective truth. There's just too many... there's too many ways in which it needs to be logically backed up, and I don't know that you can do that. So You cannot for certain know if objective truth is real. However, I believe, this is my opinion, I believe that if you live your life as if an objective truth exists, then your life is better. It gives you a place to put your moral compass and say, like, in all the craziness, this is the direction. Because otherwise you instantly fall into moral relativism and you can justify, like, crazy atrocities. At least if you have an idea of objective truth in your head, then there's the possibility that that will not be the case. Does that make sense?
We cannot even have a conversation. That's the problem. That's our problem in our culture. And even above the truth, the reason why there's an objective truth is that there is God, the God, that there is a God, there is God, and He has designed the universe and everything and everybody in it. And that's the source. That's the wellspring of truth. You know, that's why there is a truth, because God designed it a certain way, and so it is. Like, that's the fundamental bare bones truth is that God has designed it this way. That this is God's universe, and that is the truth. So, I think
that's
those,
number one.
Yeah,
From a Judeo-Christian point of view, he is
and
correct.
Then,
I think probably everything flows from that. Right?
Everything flows from that. What are we trying? But in America, as American conservatives, what are we trying to conserve? We're trying to conserve American identity, our national identity. We're trying to conserve the institution of the family, which is the foundation of the country and of civilization. We're trying to conserve the institution of the marriage, which is the foundation of the family. So this is the foundation of the foundation.
Which is the foundation of American identity.
Right. And we're trying to conserve all those things. And then at a broader level, we're trying to conserve Western civilization itself.
Which grows from...
I think that that's all fine for him to believe, but again, most people don't think this way. Most people are broke and don't know what's going to happen to them in like 5 years, what their plan for the next 5 years is. Most people are sick and unable to afford healthcare or anything like that. So most people don't care about any of that shit. Most people care about where their next paycheck is coming from. Again, so all the stuff he's talking about does become an issue once you fix the economic problem. If you want to unite young people, right? If you just want to get all of the 40 to 80-year-olds to continue to vote Republican, then it doesn't fucking matter, right? That's where all the money is and all the power. But if you actually want to represent the people, young people, that's the most important issue.
So if you were to sum it up, you could say objective truth derived from a belief that this is all created. We are not the creators.
Exactly.
And the family unit, husband, wife, children, which is the basis of all human civilization. So objective truth, family.
Yeah. I think that's...
If I were writing this on my hand for the test, okay.
Yeah.
Probably in here so the teacher couldn't see it. It would just be objective truth, family.
Yeah. And I would also put national.
That was a very weird thing to say. I think Tucker's autism just fucking creeped out a little bit.
Identity for, we're talking about American conservatives, which is what we're talking about.
But then the question becomes, like, what's that?
Yeah. Well, that's and that's also a debate in a sense. I think there are some basic things, but again, that's like, okay, as long as we agree
that we need one,
we cannot. So we have a culture, right? We need to have a culture, and multiculturalism cannot be the culture. That's not a culture.
Right. There has to be a unifying set of beliefs or customs,
right,
that keep the country from breaking apart. Otherwise, it will break apart.
So
yeah,
and that's
and I don't know. This might be like a hermeneutical or a semantic issue for me. I don't know. Let me go back.
the point. So the thing
that keep the country from breaking apart. Otherwise, it will break apart. Customs has to be a unifying.
Yeah, there has to be a unifying ethos underneath our culture. I do think that that's the case. I forgot what I was going to say.
Set of beliefs or
Not gonna lie.
customs that keep the country from breaking apart. Otherwise, it will break apart.
So
That's
and
true.
That's the point. So the things there, if someone looks at that, like that's, I'm speaking for myself, and not just myself, I think a lot, but that's my North Star. And if you look at that and you say, well, I want the same thing.
It's true in that, again, the national identity does not matter as much when most people are fucking broke. That's the truth. So, yes, so I'm an artist, right? I actually care about what it means to be an American because I love American music, right? And a lot of American music is informed by the darkest part of our history, right? So that's part of the story and the personality of America. I want that to be a good thing, right? But there's tons of people who think that America is bad to the bone, just terrible, and it needs to be completely uprooted and replaced with something else. So that's a big problem, but that's only a problem because also people are broke. I'm going to keep going back to that because it's just not okay that people are saying the economy is getting better when it's obviously just this stock trading and a very few select people continuing to get so incredibly wealthy, but most of us are not.
All right, so I'm fighting for. Then you are on my side, period. We are on the same side, and we'll have a lot of arguments, again, about how to do that, how to achieve that. We'll have a lot of arguments about it, and those could be fruitful arguments. Those don't have to be angry, nasty, personal arguments. They could just be discussions, as adults, and we'll do that, but we're on the same side. However, if you look at that and you say, well, I don't believe in any of that. I don't believe in God. I don't like truth. We all have our own truth. The family, I think the family is marriage doesn't matter. We don't need the family. And a lot of people feel that way. So
that's correct. That's the way my culture goes. A lot of my culture is very, very anti the patriarchy, right? Very feminist, very anti the family. It's more of chosen family. The ritual and the rite of passage for young people in my culture is to, once you're 18 and you can become financially independent from your parents, you do that, you move out, and then you instantly disavow everything they've ever done or stood for, and you embrace leftism, right? You leave the real world and you embrace this religion of leftism. That is true from my culture. I'm just being honest. And family is more of a chosen family than it is it's really easy just to be well, because my grandparents are a conservative, more conservative than I am, I instantly cut off ties with them in order to embrace leftism. That does happen in my culture. I don't know if it happens everywhere.
So, fine. You're allowed to feel that way. We're not on the same side at all. No matter what else you believe. And then I might agree with you. Then you might go on from there and say, yeah, but I really think that gun rights are important, and I think we need to restrict immigration, and I want to abolish the income tax or whatever. I'd agree with you on those points, but we're not fundamentally on the same side.
It's so smart. I don't want to blow anyone's mind.
Again, I think that those are only issues for people who are financially secure. Unify around a common need to make the economic situation for the average American better. Then address cultural issues second. End of story.
But I, travel a lot, talk to people for a living. You would be amazed by the people I know who agree with you vehemently and sincerely on those 2 points, and they're not all on the right at all, which is kind of interesting. So it does feel like there's a true realignment happening now. I just know in my own life, the people who reach out to me in some cases are people you would expect. In some cases, they're not all people you would expect. and they're hearing the same music, and they're motivated by the same impulses, and that is one, a belief that we are living in a world we didn't create. These rules aren't ours.
Yep.
It's basically the nature argument. Like, you can't ignore nature because you're not in charge of it. You cannot ignore natural law because you didn't make it.
Right.
Because God made it. A. And B, in the end, your only true protection is your family, and your deepest connection is to your family. And that needs to be protected above all, which I think is a variety of what you were just saying. The people who've reached out to me who believe that, man, it would blow your mind. So I guess what I would say is, it feels like a lot of our politics is artificial. It's inorganic. It was these divisions in some cases are real. In some cases they were created in order to get us to not see that we have a lot in common with other people. Yep.
That's absolutely the case. There's quite a few people who have had this like idea that there's a conspiracy that around 2011, 10, 11, 12, maybe 13, something changed in America where we stopped. It was right after Occupy, so maybe 2011. There was a moment where everybody was talking about class warfare that was just being openly talked about, right? And how the economic situation didn't benefit most people. And then all of a sudden, the conversation changed into cultural issues. It went to like racism, anti-Semitic stuff, anti-trans especially, right? Like all of those things became a problem right around that time. And that then fed into Donald Trump getting elected. And then since then, it's just been fucking crazy. Doesn't matter who's in power. Nobody's actually making an argument for like a better economic situation. Everybody who actually gets through to the end on the ballot, they get by on culture issues that like nobody actually gives a fuck about. It's been manufactured by corporations, this idea that the trans people and like right-wing Republicans are at odds, because it's not the case. It really isn't. Until the economic situation gets better, where these technocrats are not making off with trillions of dollars and funding bombs before they fund our country to be in a better position, we need to unify against that.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Look, and if someone... The words left and right are...
That's what I think.
So we put on things.
Well, people have always said that, but I never really believed it. I was like, that's bullshit. But
it's just a way of categorizing and organizing things so we can speak about them coherently. But sometimes the labels that we use, we have to shift it over. There might be people but like anyone who you've talked to who we would say is on the left, who agrees with all that, well, then I would say they're not on the left.
Well, I agree.
Well, they might even think they still are, but they're not. And so they're over on this side, and you can kind of call it whatever you want. I'm saying right, conservative. We can come up with any team name we want.
I guess what I'm saying is that your side is bigger than you think it is.
Yeah, maybe. During the when we're talking about the trans issue, and I've sort of talked about the teams. What I've come to call the side that's against all the trans madness is team sanity.
Yeah.
It's just we're for sanity. See, again, he's obviously being a troll and trying to like rage bait when he says stuff like that. It's obviously not going away. Trans people don't go away like that, right? Like when you approach the issue like that, how can you be surprised when the trans community then has to vehemently say things like they are not going anywhere? Like, it should be plainly obvious that trans people are a thing and are not going anywhere, but then you say things like that, and it kind of like, you're being a troll, and then they can be trolled back. Like, it doesn't help.
Like,
and by the way, whatever. I'm not
this issue. We're sane people, and fully acknowledging that on that issue, there were people who I don't agree with on like anything else, but are sane on this.
I can think of some of them. I used to have this woman on. Oh, I really liked her. I don't think she ever liked me at all. I can't remember her name. She was a radical lesbian feminist, and she would
Hot damn.
always come into the studio on the trans issue
The Holy Trinity.
years ago, and she was like, I could hear her thinking, I can't believe I'm in the same room as this monster, but we were so aligned on it, and I always wondered, like, why did she care so? I mean, we must have been more aligned than either of us realized if she cared that much about it, right? You must have dealt with a million people like this.
Yeah. And this is a conversation I would have sometimes because it's very strange bedfellows. I would find myself aligned on that issue with some feminists, like far left feminists.
But the radical ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But the point I would try to make to them, I think mostly unsuccessfully, is that, okay, if we agree on this, then I think, like, if you can see the truth on this, then I think we should agree on a lot more. You know,
That's my instinct too.
I actually am getting kind of annoyed at my own commentary, but again, I'm just trying to speak from truth instead of trying to, like, say, like, what I think it should be. Most people don't think about these problems.
If we agree on this, then I think, like, if you can see the truth on this, then I think we should agree on a lot more.
That is an ego thing. No, most people, if we have an economic system that benefits the majority of people, right, and doesn't take all of the power away from us, from the average person, then these culture issues are more important. But when nobody can fucking afford anything, and all of the money keeps going to, like, 5 corporations, then these culture issues do not matter to most people. Most people don't think about this stuff.
Or, you know,
That's my instinct too.
Right.
What would they say?
Well, for me, I'm not the guy to make an argument to feminists. They're not going to listen to me. There might be someone who can.
I wonder why that is.
Be kind of
I think you could convert a few, Matt Walsh.
I don't know. It's
negative.
My track record would say otherwise, but
he can convert male feminists. That's not true. He would be able to convert men who identify as feminists because men might listen to him. Women would never listen to him. I should say feminists would never listen to him. Women feminists.
The point is that, like, the argument I would make to them is that actually, I know you call yourself a feminist. The reason why we have this problem is because of feminism. Feminism is actually the root of this problem.
Of course.
And so if you agree with me on this, then I think really you are critiquing feminism. So you're not a feminist. Get it together. Come over here. And they didn't find that. That was mansplaining. You know, they weren't.
That was definitely they weren't.
Well, because I think that there's been a big change between the generations of feminism. It's not like every generation of women follow the same philosophy of feminism. Feminism has evolved a lot, especially in the last even 30 years. I definitely hear what Matt's saying too. Like, what a lot of young people, the reason why so many young people are going conservative is because it's a rejection of the most radical parts of feminism. Regular feminism, like rational, regular feminist thought is embraced, I would say, by like 75 to 85% of people. It's only once you get into the radical stuff of the last maybe 30 to 50 years that it's more polarized.
Like ready to run to the patriarchy after that.
No.
Well, that's a shame. So here's my last question. And again, it begins
Okay, here we go.
where we began, which is the fact that you're like at the center of all
Last
this. I really do
question.
think you're the last person on the right, the official, well-known official podcaster right, who has, a foot in 2 camps, and so it's just the pressure on you. I've just noticed it has been almost unbelievable, and you've bore up under it so impressively. But how do you keep yourself from becoming a hater when
Matt's already a
under
hater.
just relentless assault, and not just your views, but your
Matt's
motives,
already a hater. That's
your
the answer.
character,
Have you not seen What is a
people
Woman?
you really like, who are your friends, are denouncing you. I mean, most people live an entire lifetime without that experience. It's an unusual experience, and it can drive some like totally crazy. Like they become foaming at the mouth haters. How have you avoided that?
He hasn't.
Maybe the honest answer is I have not avoided it well.
There you go. See, even he says it.
But I think that's. I mean, look.
And it's hard to be a hater when you're in politics, or it's not the right way to say it. It's not a good thing to be a hater and in politics. It is bad. It is common, but it is not good.
The correct answer is prayer. I mean, you have to have a rich prayer life.
Yes.
And
do you?
I do have a prayer life. I don't think it's as rich as it should be. I think that I think like a lot of people, you kind of go through waves. I go through waves, and then I go through. And here's what happens with me, and I think it's probably relatable, is that when you're really frustrated and stressed out, and things are not really working out how you want them to, your kind of prayer life can dry up too, and because everything just starts feeling kind of dry.
Yep.
Everything starts feeling like nothing's working, no one's listening, you feel frustrated. No one in your life is like hearing what you're saying, and you start to feel like God is not hearing you either. And it's just this kind of frustration. And then it snowballs, and then it becomes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because now everything feels kind of dried up and frustrated. And so that's what happens with your prayer life. And then everything gets worse because of that. And so those are the moments where you have to be very intentional and say, I'm really annoyed and frustrated. I don't feel like praying. I don't even know if God's listening. He's always listening, but in a frustrated moment, you feel like he's not.
There's only so much the regular person can handle before they're just like, fuck the world. It takes a person of extreme moral character or something equivalent to not have so many atrocities and bad things happen in your life to eventually just be like, fuck you guys. None of it fucking matters anyway. Why should I care? I'm not listening anymore. Fuck the world. I give up. That is so common.
And that's when you have to realize that and then reorient yourself and become, and for me, when I have those moments, I've found that just being more structured, like sometimes you have to, like anything in life that is good, you have to kind of force yourself to do it sometimes. You have to get into a habit.
What's your structure, if you don't mind?
Well, I think you set up a time for prayer in the morning. Like you set up just times. This is my time when I'm going to pray,
Yes.
Most people are not going to listen to this part.
And
I mean, I don't know anybody who prays. Like, anybody. People who are secular might say that they pray, but I mean, I think praying is a very specific thing, and I don't know anybody who actively does it.
hopefully it's multiple times a day. And when you have a really rich prayer life and you're in a good flow, it's like you're in a constant prayer. It's a constant state of going to God, even if you're not on your knees.
Rejoice in everything, never stop praying. Yeah.
And I think that, things like your physical posture when you're praying, that can matter, and especially if you're going through a dry spell in your prayer life. I think like actually kneeling, being on your knees, does matter. And you can pray without being on your knees, but it can kind of help to orient you in the right way. And it's kind of your body telling your mind something, which is that you are submitting yourself, like you're on your knees. You are submitting yourself to a power that is greater than you. That's why you're doing this. And so you're reminding yourself that there's someone greater than you who you are appealing to.
Yeah, and maybe I just come from the generation where we weren't taught this as much, or it's just more of a foreign idea to us, but the performative parts of church and prayer and all that stuff is just not part of our culture. It hasn't been for like 50 years. Right? I mean, I don't know. Maybe in some parts of like very isolated communities in certain parts of the U.S. that's the case, but like, dude, I don't think that's actually been part of the popular like culture for like at least 30 to 50 years.
And so I think stuff like that can help also.
How much time do you spend on X?
Too much.
Meaning?
Like way too much. I don't know.
What effect does that have?
Not good. I mean, it's also hard for me because it's my job, and not like my job. It's like not like I have to punch in the clock and go on X, but part of the job is to be clued in, and I'm also creating content every day. I do a show 4 days a week now, And so this is where the conversation's happening. This is where all the sort of content is, all the things I want to talk about.
Yeah.
I also use it as kind of a, it's like I'll start a conversation on X and then I'll talk about it on the show, and it's just kind of this feeds off of each other thing. But the problem, and all that is good, and I'm glad that it's there for that reason, but the problem is this stuff sucks you in. Like, it just sucks you in. And
because I bet, I'm just guessing, you're not into, say, pornography or cocaine or...
not at all.
Right.
0%.
I knew that.
0%.
So like, for a man like you, you're not...
Sorry, my office manager just called me again. So I wanted to answer that because she's actually helping me out. Yeah, sorry, I had to get to something kind of important. I really like this video so far. I'm gonna wait another couple of minutes. I do want to finish the video before I give like a final commentary, but I think this was actually a pretty good video. For some reason, I don't know why, but Tucker Carlson's just super fucking based and interesting to listen to, and it's fun listening to all of his guests. I wish I would have done this reacting thing when he did his Ted Cruz thing, because the Ted Cruz thing was fucking awesome. He eviscerated him, and it was the best. Hold on, I gotta pee again. That's what happens when you drink 3 cups of coffee or 4 cups of coffee in the morning. All right, good. Everybody's left. Could watch this in peace.
You know, you're not ruled by your addictions, but do you feel like X?
Well, it's weird. Here's the weird thing for me. the amount of time I spend on it sometimes would seem like an addict. However, when I go on vacation and I say like, I'm leaving, I'm not going to be doing a show, I'm out of the, I'm going to be out, I'm not paying attention to anything, and I go on vacation, I put the phone down. I have zero desire to pick it up. I don't even find myself like, I got to find out what's happening. I put it down. I'm on vacation. I have no desire. In fact, it's the opposite. When I come back, I have to force myself to like get into this again. And almost it's ridiculous. I'm like forcing myself to tweet because I got to get in the flow to do the job. And so that tells me it's not really an addiction. It's something even worse, I guess, because when I have the chance to walk away from it, I so eagerly do. It's like my soul telling me, like, you got this. This is what I actually long for. Is not this.
I think that's a really good sign.
I think it's a good sign.
Do you feel like when you? Well, I'll tell you how I feel when I go on it, because I know so many of the people who are tweeting their opinions. It's like seeing all of your acquaintances naked. I feel like people reveal so much about themselves, and it's like, wow, you don't look great naked. I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, for the longest time, we didn't have constant interaction with people on that kind of level, right? Like, I mean, if you were a kid, you went to school for most of the day, and that's where you'd get most of your socialization, and then you would go home and you would, I guess, socialize with your parents. But there was a lot of like alone time for both parties, and if you're the parents, then you went to work all day, and then when you came home, then you took care of your kids or whatever. You weren't constantly like having to like entertain or be entertained by people. And in the new age of social media, that's just like, we're raised on that. That's just part of our culture. I mean, kids as young as what, 2 or 3 years old are given little pads, and so by the time they're 6, they're fluent in it, and they can talk to the world.
I mean, I've never really thought about you naked, but now that I can see it, you should put some clothes back on. That's the feeling I have every time I go on there.
That is that's an interesting way of putting it, and I think that's true. I mean, it used to be, right, if you were like a prominent person in some field, if you ever gave your opinions publicly, depending on the field, you might never give your opinion publicly. But if you ever did, it was like in a structured, it was a very intentional kind of way. Mm-hmm. And
I try and stick to that.
And now we have, it used to be like, it's hard for kids these days to realize this, but it used to be that we would have all these like famous people and celebrities, and most of them, we never knew what they thought about anything. Exactly. We had no clue what they thought. We didn't even know what their personalities were. We only saw them because they were throwing a football or because they were acting in a thing or whatever.
Matt knows that's not true, and that's never been true. I don't know why all of a sudden he's acting like actors and artists were always apolitical or didn't talk about what they thought, and now within the last 10 years they have. Like, I don't know why. That's obviously not true. From the moment acting was a thing, actors were political, right? That's part of the culture. That's obviously true. That's like a rewriting of history in his own head, right? Like, because things have gotten so bad in the last 10 years, it's easy just to be like, if anything was like good, and then 10 years ago it just got shitty. Some things were always kind of shitty.
And now, yeah, we just know everyone's opinion up to date on every.
So whoever thought that, I mean, if you told me 10 years ago that like all the people in charge were thoroughly banal and conventional at best, like they had nothing interesting to say, they never thought about anything ever, like Hillary Clinton had not a single thought in her head, and that some guy called Orrin McIntyre, whoever that is, would turn out to be, or you, or like all these people who 10 years ago were not, they're very far from what we might think of as a public intellectual. All of a sudden, they're, purely through the force of their ideas and the clarity of their expression, we're kind of defining the terms. That is a huge change. It's totally disempowered the poobah class, and it's given rise to this like genuinely interesting, bubbling conversation. Like at best, do you feel that?
Yeah, I do, which is why, I mean, we talk about social media, we talk about X, and I don't want to talk as though I think it's a overall like nothing but a negative, because I do think it allows.
Oh, total. No, it's a mixed blessing for sure.
Yeah. So, and that is true. Like it allows, and it obviously has created a situation where the institutions that used to control the conversation completely now don't control it at all. And
But they've shown that they're just not impressive. That like in the true and fabled marketplace of ideas, they're like a rummage sale, actually.
Yeah.
And-
Well, they have nothing to say.
No, but like, who would buy that crap? It's just not. Once we see it in its entirety, once the mystique has been stripped away, they have nothing to offer. Like they're just totally pedestrian. And then these, I mean, do you ever see random Twitter accounts? You have no idea who this is. It's not someone who's anyone's ever heard of, making a point that's so profound that like you can't get it out of your head. Does that ever happen to you?
Oh, definitely. I was just thinking. I don't remember who the guy was, but yeah, I read a tweet a couple days ago, and it was this lengthy, like really well written analysis of something I can't even remember, but it's like a random Twitter account. I don't know who that guy is.
Like what?
And in a way, it's kind of sad because I read that, I'm like, well, I don't know. This guy's a philosopher. He should be in a different age.
No, but affirmative action has kept them all out. So this is where they went. So you're like, well, you know, we don't have a meritocracy anymore, and the smartest, most impressive people literally can't get jobs or grants or into college. So like, what are they doing? And they're sitting home tweeting.
Yeah, tweeting these like morsels of incredible wisdom in some cases.
But no, truly.
Yeah, but this is, as you said, mixed blessing. The problem is that
Hearing them talk about stuff like Twitter, like fucking cavemen, like we don't use it every day and are surprised by things that people do on there is fucking really weird. It's kind of showing how out of touch they are in some ways, or how old they are.
in between the morsels of great wisdom, you've got nothing but just slop and
Hate.
and all this, right? And so the best thing we can do is think.
Just like it's always been. Again, I don't know why all of a sudden in the last 10, 15 minutes they've just entered a world where everything 10, 15 years ago was wonderful.
Things like keep your prayer life alive, and control. You have to have self-control in how you interact with this. One of the worst things, and everyone does this. I do it. I think it's the worst habit that almost everyone has now.
I'm sure I do it too then, if it's
Which
a bad
is,
habit.
The first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is check your phone.
I don't do that.
Well, then you're in better shape than I am, and a lot of people.
Never.
The thing is the first thing I do is look at my phone. A lot of the times it's just to check the time, right? Like I wake up and the first thing that can tell the time is my phone, and so I just look at it to check the time. I actively try not to open and scroll in bed because then it just disincentivizes me from getting out and do anything. And I really, really like having coffee in the morning and just relaxing. So I make it a point really to try to I use my phone to check the time, and I may like open up YouTube Studio and check all of the socials real quick, just to get a dopamine boost. But I don't do any scrolling. It's just to check how many people liked or followed or whatever. But I even try not to do that until at least I'm dressed and out of bed. The first hour and a half, I try to just be coffee, maybe listening to music, and hanging out with my girlfriend. That's a very important time for me.
And
That is like the worst. I used to. That's like having blueberry pancakes for breakfast, which was a habit that was very hard for me to break. But once I did it, I realized that framed my whole day in the wrong way. Have you ever started the day with blueberry pancakes?
Huh?
You can't get past it. Everything
because
in
it's
your
awesome?
day is defined by blueberry pancakes.
Why? Because you're longing for the.
Yeah, you're hungry all day. You feel shitty. You're lethargic.
Oh wow, yeah. Because it's just so
don't
good. You start your day with the best thing in the world. It's like the rest of the day sucks in comparison.
Till noon and everything is better. But I grew up in a blueberry pancake world, 100%. Blueberry pancakes.
What the fuck is this last 10 minutes, bro?
And that's
This
not
last 10
the
minutes
way
is just
to
like
start
a
the
proof
day.
that no matter how base somebody can be, if they're that much older, because Tucker's 56, dude, it's just, the generations are just different. We're just different. We're completely different.
And I feel like social media are even worse
Just
than
do the cigarette. Don't do the pancakes.
that. That is, I'm not
Based.
kidding. can't say this. That is still a great way to start the day. I don't care what anybody says. It's just a fact.
Yeah, but
whatever. Sorry.
Everybody I know who smokes would agree with you.
All right, you're totally kidding.
Starting the day by looking at your phone is so horrifically bad. I do it all the time.
But actually,
I do. I shouldn't.
That's like the one thing you can't. Just don't do that. That's easy. Just like because you use it as your alarm, right?
Yeah. See.
Yeah.
Of course, everybody does. I do too. We don't allow phone usage in the bedroom except for the alarm. That's an ironclad rule. Just get up, get a cup of coffee, get your face in.
Hey.
Or just stare out the window, kiss your dogs.
Smart man.
Anything but that.
He's a smart man.
In fact,
that's exactly how I've been starting my day. I know it's not a very popular opinion, but my my girlfriend had never read the story of Exodus, and so maybe every other morning or so, something like that. Maybe sometimes we'll do it twice in a row. We start the morning like reading Exodus and somewhat talking about it. And guess what? Those days that I do that are better days usually. Take what you want from that.
just this morning, I woke up. First thing I did is I checked my phone and I went on X. And it was just in my feed. It just happened. Like the first thing I read, I just opened my eyes 30 seconds ago. The first thing I read was like in my feed, something popped up and it was like, Matt Walsh is a coward. Whatever. I'm starting my day with that. Like the first thing that enters my eyeballs.
What are you doing?
I don't know. And then I put my phone down. I'm like, why did I do that? Why
You're
did
in
I
a
read
hotel room though, right?
that? In a hotel room.
Because there's no chick there. That's why it's so important to be married.
That is, yeah, that's true also.
Right?
But you know, and there's no kids. Like
Totally.
Yeah.
Matt Walsh, some of us, probably not a huge group, but some of us, just kidding, really appreciate what you're doing and your clear thinking and your self-control, and especially your summation of what actually matters. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I think that was a good video. I think Matt is like an interesting guy. He's kind of funny sometimes, and I do think like his films are kind of funny. They have this like Borat kind of energy where they're like really like socially fucking with people, and I think that's hilarious. Regardless of what you think of his personal views, right? His personal views are obviously contentious, but it's really, I would never have guessed when I was like 13 and just getting into politics, and I fucking hated this guy for years and years because I remembered what it was like to watch him talk on TV while my grandmas watched him. And he was just kind of obnoxious, and he wore bow ties, and once you wear a bow tie, you're just like a second-class citizen to me. So I never liked this guy, like, ever. And now it seems like all of a sudden, within maybe the last, whatever, since he's been fired from Fox or something, like, he's just totally based, dude. I mean, even if he might have opinions that are radical or unorthodox or whatever, in a world that's so fucking crazy, his viewpoint is not that crazy. It's not that radical. So yeah, I'm just give it a like. That was fun. I don't know. I've never done something like that. I've never done, like, I'm a politics junkie, and so I just figured I'd give it a try once. See if it's like fun. See if people are engaged. Both of my streams got up to 40 people. I think the other one even got up to 50 before it went down. So, I mean, good engagement. But, yeah, now let's, just want to check my rank in sailing. I've been trying to stay above at least 15k in the top, or in the Ironman high scores. Nice. 14,936. That's good enough for me. But yeah, let's, what time is it? I went along a little longer than I thought. Stop recording. 150? Yeah. Let's play a little bit Ratchet and Clank. That sounds like fun. We will do a little bit of variety gaming, because that sounds like fun. Yeah, well, I might play this for like 2 hours or something like that. Maybe, well, yeah, it's almost 2 o'clock. Yeah, I might play it closer for like an hour and a half or something like that, but we'll play a little bit. Oh, Jesus. What happened to the fucking graphics this time? Why? FSR. I don't know what that is. Give me better quality in my game, please. Oh my god, it's so bad. I wish I could figure out what it is that makes it do that, because sometimes the graphics are fine, and then all of a sudden I log back in and it's, like, not good. Oh, there it goes. Oh, no, it's doing it again, because it should pretty much load instantly. God damn it, Bobby! Yeah, why does it get so bad, man? It's really annoying. Damn. Why is it doing this? It's so bad. Yeah, what the fuck?
Of course, our only lead-defining Captain Quantum is about to be executed.
Why?
Perhaps someone else can tell us where he is.
Wow, why? What the fuck, dude? So I'm confused. I just need somebody with like more computer knowledge than me to come and like help me tune this thing, because this thing should do anything. I like looked up everything online before I bought this, and everybody and their mother said that for just regular gaming like RuneScape and streaming, that this should be no problem. And the second that I do something other than RuneScape, dude, it like doesn't like it. Total. So I wonder if like my PC comes with the necessary parts, but then you have to tune it to do it. Like my graphics card should handle this just fine. There should be none of this. I don't know why this is happening.
Of course, our only lead.
saying that it's using 100% of the graphics right now. I think I started a stress test and I don't know how to turn it off. I mean, I'll be at this a little bit just to see if I can get something changed. But, I mean, if I don't get it in the next few minutes, then we might just end it early. Hmm. Why does it jump up to 100%? Yeah, I'm still registering 27 frames, dude. 16. Why? That's the thing is I just don't know how to fix it. So I'm pretty sure it doesn't even do any of that stuff because this is what it's actually running off of.
Of course, our only lead to finding Captain Quantum is about to be executed.
Perhaps someone else can tell us where he is.
Yeah, maybe I just need to end stream to figure out this. Thanks guys for coming by. I'm sure that it's just not fun watching me do this. So I'm gonna do a little bit of R&D and try to figure out why every day it seems since the new Windows update that I can't play anything with any kind of good graphics. It's fucking annoying because I just spent $2,000 on a computer, but it is what it is. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll probably see you guys tomorrow later in the day. Yeah, have a good night.